Hi everyone, yasas que kalos irtate to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today we're going to be making a lemony phyllo pie that's going to have phyllo pastry in it, a lemon custard. It's so delicious. In Greek, it's known as lemonopita in some parts of Greece, but in others, it's known as Patsavouropita because you just throw everything together in a baking pan and you bake it, and it's a dessert that is just luscious and delicious. It goes great with a cup of coffee, has a lemony custard in it, shredded phyllo like I said before. Let's get started. So usually with syrup-based desserts, we begin by making the syrup, but in this case, we're gonna start by preparing the phyllo because it has to dry up a little bit. So take a pound of number 4 phyllo pastry out of its packaging, leave it rolled up, then cut it into about 1/2 inch thick strips, and then I like to separate the strands over a big piece of parchment paper. You could do it over a baking tray and then just set it aside, maybe on top of the oven or something, somewhere where it's very dry. Set it aside for about an hour so it can dry up a little bit. That's going to help it absorb the custard, which is what we're going to make in a few minutes. Now that that's done, it's time to make the syrup, and the syrup is going to be lemony and delicious. So start off by removing the peel of a lemon, just the shiny part. I like to use a potato peeler. Put it in a small saucepan along with 1½ cups of granulated sugar, 1½ cups of water, and then mix that all together and cook it over medium heat until it comes to a boil and the sugar has dissolved. Take it off of the heat and set it aside to cool completely. Now it's time to make the custard. So I'm doing this in my tabletop mixer, but you could do this in a big bowl with a whisk or with a hand mixer. 4 eggs. You want to make sure they're at room temperature. And before you start doing this, it's a good idea to zest lemons. You're going to need 2 to 3 lemons depending on what size you have. You're going to need 2 tablespoons of lemon zest, so zest that and set it aside. And then you can also juice about 1/4 cup of lemon juice and set that aside too. 3/4 cup of sugar. If you want to add less sugar, that's fine because the syrup is going to go on top as well. You can get away with maybe 1/3 cup of sugar if you like your desserts a little less sweet. Whip that up until it's nice and fluffy at high speed. And while that's mixing, I'm just going to throw in a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Next, I'm going to add 1 cup of vegetable oil. I like to use a light olive oil for this. You can melt butter and put 1 cup worth of melted butter in here. Unsalted butter is best. You can use coconut oil. Coconut and lemon is a great combination, and it would be nice in this recipe. Your favorite vegetable oil that you love and trust. 1 cup of Greek yogurt. If you don't have Greek yogurt, you can use sour cream. All of the lemon zest, and 1/4 cup of lemon juice, always freshly squeezed, and a tablespoon of baking powder. Mix that all up. Smells so good. Then go ahead and transfer all of the shredded phyllo in a 9 by 13 inch baking pan. You can grease it a little bit. I forgot to do that. And then you're going to pour all of the custard on top. And of course, you can use orange instead of lemon for this recipe. So it's also a good idea to toss all of the phyllo into the custard, into the big bowl of custard that we were mixing it with. Just use 2 forks and do that. I'm just taking the shortcut and doing it in the pan. It should be fine. But in the mixing bowl would be better, so that way everything is coated. It's ready for the oven. Preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and bake it on the center rack for 45 minutes to an hour, or until the top is nice and golden brown. Once that happens, take it out of the oven, poke some holes all around the pie, and then pour all of that syrup on top. Let it set for about 2 hours, and then it'll be ready to serve. If you're serving this dessert for a party, it's a great dessert to make a day ahead of time because it tastes amazing when it's nice and cold. That's actually how I prefer serving it, but if you like it room temperature, that's fine too. It is time for the taste test. Lemony desserts have to be way up there in my top 5 favorite desserts of all time. This is perfectly lemony, not too sweet. The layers of the phyllo taste like pudding, as does the custard, of course. It's not at all eggy tasting. It's not syrupy or too wet. It's just perfection, perfect in every bite. My favorite part has to be the corners of this because they get a little bit caramelized. So good. If you have any lemon preserves at home, any sweet lemon preserves, you can finally chop them and put them in here. Those would be delicious if you have them. This tastes really good served with maybe a dollop of mascarpone cheese or whipped cream or even ice cream with some salted ground up pistachios. It's a great combination. No matter how you decide to serve it, just make sure that you make it and give this recipe a try. It's so easy. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. The exact measurements are on the website, dimitrasdishes.com. If you want to learn how to make pistachio baklava, which is my favorite, click over here and I'll see you right over there. Yes, us.